Yeah, so my co-founder John and I built PickFu for our own need years ago. Not for ecom, actually, it was for a different business we were doing. Speaking to the evolution of it, what we discovered was that there was this gap of accessible market research for people who aren't experts in it. And so, we all hear about large brands, CPG brands that conduct these big focus groups or these studies, and they cost thousands of dollars. They take weeks.
No, that's 100%. I've been there. So I've been there, got the t-shirt where I've went to sell a product and it just fell flat on its face. So I totally been there and got that.
Basically just a front-end sales channel. He developed a strategy because in his own business he wasn't profitable with the strategy.
Well, it's clearly working wonders for our clients, and it's crazy to me how many agencies don't know about this at all.
Justin, welcome to the e-commerce leader podcast. I am excited to have you on here, man.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Kyle.
Yeah, this is really, really good. We've been trying to coordinate getting this for a few weeks now, so I'm glad it's come together, and I'm pumped. I think that your background and what your platform brings to the e-commerce community at large is a huge, massive value add. So I kind of want to jump into it a little bit. I want to hear a little bit about your background, how you kind of get started, and what is PickFu?
Sure. So really briefly, first of all, PickFu's, think of it as a digital focus group that helps e-com brands get feedback, consumer feedback, all throughout the product process. So from product concept to branding and design to product packaging to the marketing materials that they're going to use, whether it's on Amazon or DTC. So we have a panel of people that will give you very quick feedback on any question that you have in your mind. So you could hypothetically test things out. So my co-founder John and I built PickFu for our own need years ago. Not for ecom, actually, it was for a different business we were doing. And we were doing a redesign for our website and we wanted to get feedback. We didn't know of that digital focus group where we could do that. And so being engineers, we built the very first version of PickFu back then.
That is cool. And so now today it's sort of evolved into a full, robust platform. Where do you sort of find the best benefit for, say, the e-commerce seller on the platform?
Yeah, I mean, speaking to the evolution of it, what we discovered was that there was this gap of accessible market research for people who aren't experts in it. And so, we all hear about large brands, CPG brands that conduct these big focus groups or these studies, and they cost thousands of dollars. They take weeks. They take a lot of expertise to run. And that's not something that us as entrepreneurs or smaller brands can do. We don't have the expertise. We don't have the budget. And so our goal really now is to democratize consumer research for anyone who's selling to consumers. And that's a really big market. But it's particularly useful for people selling products, like on e-commerce brands, selling on Amazon, any other marketplaces, or selling direct to consumer. And so the most obvious place that we see people using it is, of course, marketing. So, they'll put their, if you're a new entrepreneur, you build your product, you order your product, you get it into Amazon or wherever you're fulfilling, and maybe it doesn't sell. Right. Your first stab at everything and it doesn't sell. You think you know everything, you read all the courses, you heard all the stuff, and it just doesn't sell. And so people first find us because they want to know, okay, why isn't it selling? So they'll probably test their main image on Amazon or whatever their main product image is, and see how it does against the competition in a little survey. And what's really cool about the surveys that we do is that everyone has to give a written explanation why they made a choice. So whether they like yours or your competitors or, version A or version B. And that really helps you understand the why. And so we can actually help quite a bit on improving your marketing assets by, kind of helping you understand why that image isn't appealing or, that font isn't great. But where the real value comes in is helping you early in the process. And what inevitably happens is that people will run this poll against their competition. And a lot of the feedback will come back saying, oh, well, I don't like the branding. I don't like the packaging. I don't like the product design. And the consumer the customer will go, oh my God, like I should have been using PickFu much earlier in the process. I would have avoided ordering, pink instead of blue, and it's just not selling. All these decisions that you've made throughout the process that either you just made an assumption, or you asked your friends and family, or maybe just your team, and they're all kind of echo chambers of not necessarily your target audience.
Right. No, that's 100%. I've been there. So I've been there, got the t-shirt where I've went to sell a product and it just fell flat on its face. So I totally been there and got that. But it's also really, really interesting. And I've had a lot of conversations with clients along this line as well, where they've been down that journey. They started their product, they launched it. And then after the fact, we're having this conversation, I'm talking with them and I'm like, yeah, we should have had this conversation 6 months ago before you would get down here, because you wasted a ton of money and the product isn't performing. And you really needed to go through a much thorough product testing regimen. And I love that you can do that. And it really does literally save so much time and so much heartache and money. To be realistic and frank, there's a lot of wasted cash on just too quick to market. I mean, there's a speed to market mentality that you want to definitely have, right?
Sure.
So money loves speed, but it also smart money loves doing the right things at speed, right? So taking your product directly to throwing it up on Amazon with a couple of product photography pictures that you think look great definitely gets you to the market. But if you would have just gone quicker in the iteration process and maybe gone through 4 or 5 revisions of your product photography and then gone, a much bigger outcome, a much bigger success, and so a lot of times you're going back after the fact and fixing that, and it just slows down the entire launch process, slows down your revenue cycle, and really just is underperforms. One other thing too is that I like to recommend to clients, I was like, one of the best investments in your business is going to be your branding, it's going to be your packaging, it's going to be your product photography. It's like the way your customer interacts with an e-commerce product is visually how it shows up on their device, right? Like they're not picking it up in the store, they're not walking past it at an end cap in retail. Like they have to see it, watch a video of it, look at the images, look at the lifestyle pictures. And so how well you iterate that process and take it through multiple rounds of eyeballs who are your potential clients and customers, it just gives you that immediate feedback to make those changes, as opposed to taking the product live, shooting all the photography you're going to shoot and waste all that money and then be like, oh, it didn't actually perform. So I love that.
I'm always surprised by how little emphasis is given to branding. I think there's maybe the old presumption that it didn't matter as much because on Amazon, people aren't searching for brands, but it does make a decision. It makes a big difference in their decision process, right? Because
for sure,
maybe the products are similar because you ordered from the same factory,
right,
but the one that's branded with a brand that makes sense for the product category is going to do better. The one with the packaging that looks like it wasn't just like the brown box, like you put some effort into it. And the packaging is honestly a billboard on Amazon. Like you could, if you could put all your selling benefits, certifications, whatever it is on there, like that is an ad, and taking time to iterate on that. But instead of just putting up whatever packaging and not even thinking about it, is worth it. And what ends up happening is that if you don't do that, you're going to have to make some post edits on the image anyways to try to get it a little bit more interesting. But you can do all that earlier. You don't have to wait until you've ordered the packaging to do it.
Yeah, 100%. And I think too, and even if you pivot this to sort of a Shopify conversation, images that show up on your product page, images even in your social, in your ads, obviously spending ad dollars is going to happen and you're going to test creative. But if you take some of that creative through maybe a little bit of a pre-testing round, getting some feedback on it immediately, what if that sort of helps get your click-through rate even higher? Because one of the biggest drivers of success in any sort of ad platform, right, is going to be click-through rate. Yeah. And so if you're generating higher click-throughs on your ads, they're going to perform out of the gate much more efficiently and faster than if you say, like, I'll just split test like 40 images in my ad campaign and kind of do that. Well, you can narrow that down pretty rapidly, just kind of get a sense from a poll, consumer data of your client, and say, hey, my target customer says that these were perform better. Let's go take it to the market and actually test it.
Yeah, I mean, I remember a customer was working on a pocket hand sanitizer. You know, this was back during COVID,
right?
And they were working on some lifestyle imagery, and it was interesting because they were testing out different scenarios, different scenes that they might showcase it in. And so, you know, there was one that was showcasing it of a woman putting it in her pocket in the supermarket. There was one taking it out while driving, and another one like at a park or something. And the resounding of, you know, I mean, you might be able to guess this, but the resounding winner was the supermarket one, because, you know, you read through all the comments, they're like, well, this is the scenario that makes the most sense. Yeah. Like, I want it to be portable so that I can have it in situations like in the supermarket with the shopping cart. Sure. And it's like, well, the car, it's my car. And then like outdoors, like you don't really care as much. So, but you know, that might not be as intuitive. You're just looking for, your designer might just be looking for something that like looks nice. And I think that's a fallacy that a lot of, you know, I'm not going to pin this all on the designers, but a lot of times the designers are just looking for something aesthetic as opposed to what's performs well. And so I think you do need to take the ideas that they have, you need to test them to make sure that the target audience or the message that you're trying to convey is coming across. And so sometimes we'll see people test, you know, what is the message that you're taking away from this image? And you don't always have to compare something on PickFu. You can just put up an image or a video and just ask them, you know, like, what are you taking away from this? Like, oh, it's a cool hit brand, or it's safe, or like it's a very configurable, you know, product, whatever it is. And that's, you know, hopefully that's what you're trying to get across. And so that's a great way to make sure that your ad copy, your ad imagery, or your ad video, you know, videos are hitting home before, you know, you put all those ad dollars behind it.
Yeah, no, I think that's a really great use case for it, because one of the challenges is we kind of assume that everyone's going to see the same intent in our content, our creative, right? And then you kick it to the market and they're like, nope. It's the same with like web design, right? Like everyone's like, oh, I love the way my site looks and performs. And then you like actually look at click data and heat map data, and everyone's like randomly like lost trying to find stuff, you know? And they're like, oh, this isn't designed as intuitively as we thought it was, because we get sort of, you know, familiar with the entire website and the design process. And so it's like, yeah, of course we know how to use it because we've looked at it for every day for the last month. Whereas you're brand new to it, you're like, I don't understand what's happening here. I don't understand what's going on. So I love that. I think that's a really great idea. Just get feedback on your content, on your data.
It's I don't know if everyone knows the Peloton ad, you know, where it was the gift to the wife, and it just maybe the intent was good, but the execution of it just like came off very poorly, right? Sure. And I don't know what testing they did, but I'm sure if they ran some tests, they probably would have come across as kind of tone deaf and like offensive, and you probably could have, you know, nipped it in the bud a little earlier than just letting it go live.
Yeah, for sure. Well, marketing and advertising is littered with those examples of huge fails, right? Of really just kind of missing the mark. So I think
who did they pay for this? What agency did they pay for this?
The wrong one, apparently. They didn't take that to PickFu and get really good feedback immediately, right? That's what they should have done. Talk to us about sort of what you see as the best sort of, I guess, case studies, ROI drivers, and maybe best practices for e-commerce sellers using PickFu.
Yeah, so the easiest ROI is like I said, is to start with the imagery, because I think there's a lot of low-hanging fruit there. Obviously, you've already got your inventory in there. And so the process that we recommend doing is kind of 3 steps. So the first one is to take your main image and then let's say your top 2 or 3 competitors' main images. And this applies mostly to Amazon or any competitive marketplace, and to test them against each other. And so this sets a baseline of, okay, well, maybe you're winning, maybe you're not. Likely you're not, but you're going to understand why. Like, so like try to pick the 3 that are better than you, and you're going to read why. Maybe they can't tell how many, you know, different quantities are in yours or the ingredients or whatever it is. They're going to give you some written explanations why. And then what you're going to do is go to your designer and make variations based off what you've learned. Okay, they like seeing the packaging. Our competitors have the packaging, or they're showing some ingredient imagery, or they're showing the counts more clearly. Okay, so let's make some new versions of our imagery. And let's keep testing it against our own versions until we kind of come to a local maxima, like a winner there. Then you're going to take that new image and you're going to retest it against those same 3 competitors that you baselined against. And hopefully you're now going to see a relative improvement.
Right.
Now, you may not always win because you can't always beat Apple. You can't always beat, certain brands or whatever it is. But hopefully you see a relative improvement, in which case that would translate to taking clicks away in the search results to your brand, because maybe now your main imagery is more clearly conveying that you're a 3-pack instead of just a 1-pack, or maybe the size, the number of liters it has. All those kinds of things make a really big difference when they're just scrolling through and like, oh, okay, this seems like a higher value to me. So I would say that's the highest, easiest ROI. That process would probably only take you a few hours end to end, because our surveys are done typically in 30 minutes to an hour. So with the time with your designer, making a few variations, it would only take a few hours to do this iteration. And we see tremendous gains from our customers. Even if you want to live test it afterwards, now you have the confidence to put something that you've tested in the live test. When we were at Amazon Accelerate last fall, I guess, I was talking to the product manager over there for Manager Experiments, and he was saying that one of the issues is that people aren't taking strong enough bets in their live A/B test. Because why would you? It's risky. Like, you're risking sales. I don't think people realize it all the time, but when you're live A/B testing, you're literally putting one up that's worse than the other one, right? So you're losing money somehow, and so most people are taking very conservative adjustments. Like, oh, I'm just gonna change the color slightly, or I'm just gonna put like a small flower, but nothing really drastic. And so when you pre-test it on a platform like on PickFu, you can try all kinds of different creative directions. Like, all right, let's go all pink. Let's flip around all the images. Like, whatever it is, you can try all these creative directions, and it's a private sandbox so that you understand, like, oh, okay, cool. Like, people actually like this take,
right?
And it actually did better against the competition. So now I can confidently go live A/B test it. And what one of our other agency partners said is that 75% of all the tests that won in PickFu that they launched live with Manager Experiments showed an increase. Of course, like, we can't win 100%, but like 75% is pretty good. So
75% is pretty good lift.
Pretty good. It's a pretty good batting average, right?
yeah. Might make it to the Hall of Fame.
Yeah. So that's what I would say is the easiest. When you start to get more advanced, using it in your product process is where we see the bigger companies doing it. So product design, even selection of, like, do we even want to go into a category? Some of our savvier customers will, we all have different there's a million product ideas that you could sell.
Sure, right.
They're not always good, and they're all going to take a lot of time and money. So what they'll do is actually mock up the actual product with the packaging and the main imagery that they would go to market with. Maybe they haven't even talked to the factory yet, but like, if I were to sell this teapot, here's the version I would sell, and like do all the design work, test it against a competition, see how good it performs. Because then it's like, okay, well, I have a fighting chance because my value proposition is interesting in the marketplace. Now I'm going to go start figuring out, like, if I can make it work economically, right? So, we'll have people just like run all kinds of these hypothetical things, and we always thought they were all their products, but after we talked to them, it's like, no. Like, none of these like went to market because like they didn't win. But
win.
It's all about avoiding the loss, right?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, 100%. So what about like the audience of like the people taking these polls, right? Can you like really narrow down to try and find your customer avatar, or is it pretty much wide open and you're just kind of getting a wide sample?
So by default, it's going to be a general audience. It'll be first come, first serve. But we've got over 90 different targeting attributes. So, some of the basics like gender, income, but you could target parents, or, parents with kids of certain ages. You could target dog owners, tea drinkers, whiskey drinkers, a lot of behavioral stuff. And a lot of this came from our customers asking. And so, if there is a targeting attribute that's not there, definitely let us know. We could look into building it. But we cover a lot of the standard bases around, home goods type thing, nutritional supplement users, pet owners. Pets is a big, popular segment. So we do cover most of that. And then we're not only in the US, but 12 countries in total now, which are some new additions. So pretty much all the major Amazon marketplaces are represented. And it's really fascinating because if you're, even more important when you're going into a new market, right? You need to validate not only that the type of product in the variation that you're thinking is right, but also that your packaging and your branding and your advertising, like all that needs to resonate. Right. A lot of times people are like, oh, I've got like a picture that works well in the US and I'm going to go sell it in Japan. Well, did you factor in that the fridges are different sizes or like they want smaller volumes, whatever it is? There's a lot of different factors and you need to validate before taking something to a new market.
Yeah, for sure. No, that's good. It reminds me of the that old story of the Nova blunt. No, like this actually didn't actually happen, but there was like the Chevy Nova. It was sold poorly in Spanish-speaking countries because Nova is like no-go, right, in Spanish. But that's been debunked. But it's the same sort of idea, right? Around thinking about how one brand name might be perceived in one marketplace versus another. You can actually test that, right? You can actually just go and get the information that you need to do it. So I think it's super, super smart. The other question I had about the platform is really about so obviously I'm going to ask these questions to these customers, right? I don't know how to do a poll that's effective. Like I might just be making up the wrong stuff. Like, is there anything built into the platform that really optimizes and helps me to really have a great outcome?
Yeah, that's a good question. That's definitely one of the biggest stumbling blocks that new people have. They're not sure how to phrase the question. Like, oh, I'm not a research expert, or maybe English isn't my first language. So we do have a lot of templates, pre-built templates that have suggested questions. So if you're testing main imagery or you want to get feedback on your listing, we have templates for all those things. And so we have a nice template gallery that you can choose from. The other thing that we recently rolled out is a AI question helper. So you could take your best shot at writing the question and kind of click the, just validate, is this question good? And it'll give you an improved option if you want it. But a lot of times what that's good for is kind of taking out the bias. Sometimes we tend to be a little biased in how we ask questions, right. Well, obviously option A is the best one, but why wouldn't you choose it? It's like, well, that's not a great way to phrase the question.
Right, 100%. No, that's super smart. I love that. That's great. Which is important because if you're going to be creating these things, you want to at least have some level of confidence in you're asking the right questions to kind of get the best value out of it. I love that. So I got a question for you. So out of your client stories, ROIs, outcomes, case studies, what's maybe a couple of your favorite that you like? Oh, this XYZ happened and made this big of a difference. I'm just kind of curious what your favorite would be over the last few years.
Well, we've got a famous case study with Thrasio from back in the day. So they were one of the biggest aggregators, and one of their first purchases was the pet deodorizer. And so it was a very homey looking branding, I'll say, but it was a good product. And so they were trying to decide if they should invest in, this huge $50,000 packaging revamp. And so they ran all the different packaging designs through PickFu, and they validated on, it was Angry Orange was the brand. So it was a new orange bottle, which is very eye-catching. It really pops, especially in the search results. And so it's very hip, very modern. And so the tests, for the new packaging won. And so they invested a ton of money into this huge rebrand. And to this day, this is the branding, the style of the packaging that they use. And they've rolled it out and made a ton of different product variations. And they saw an immediate jump in their sales right after launching that new packaging. And then just continued to grow the brand. It was their cornerstone brand for the longest time to so many different product variations because of that the successful rebrand. So that's always a good one. One of my favorites was there was another aggregator named Elevate, and a lot of people don't know that it was originally Recom Brands, and they were using PickFu for their products.
Sure.
And they loved it so much that they decided to test new names for the rebrand with PickFu. So they actually rebranded to Elevate by testing all their new names and logos in PickFu. And it was awesome because so we got to see all the different names that they were thinking of, and then they would test it against like their competitors, like Thrasio and some of the other aggregators. And Elevate actually did perform the best. And so, that's the brand that they went with. So I thought that was a really nice hat tip to how good the platform was, that not only did they use it on the products that they had purchased, but also on the corporate brand as well. So that was pretty cool.
That is cool. That's super cool. That's a great story. I love that. It just goes to the power of, doing the testing, right? Like, yeah. I think that's just a missed component in a lot of the sellers thinking, in a lot of e-com. It's like, I just want to get it to the market as fast as possible and let the market tell me. But to your point, having what you called like a private sandbox experience for getting that data is a lot more cost efficient than taking it actually to, say, like a marketplace like Amazon and slugging it out with people. It's like going in with one hand tied behind your back, right? Like, you're just not fully prepared as well as you should be. And I think that PickFu does a great job with that. So what do you recommend? So if someone want to get started with PickFu today, what would you say it's like? Did you start with like some product images or like some PDP images for like a product display?
Yeah, so I would, like I said, I would test out your image against your competitors. Another thing you can do is what we call like a crowdsourced listing audit. So you can just put up a single URL and you could ask the question. We have a template for this called the Amazon page review. And you could just but this works for any product page. So it could be your Shopify page, it could be, whatever it is. And you just ask people, check out this listing. What questions do you still have? And I guarantee you they're going to surface some hesitation, some question that you thought you already answered well enough, but probably isn't. So like, is it washable? Like, right. How many times can I use this? Like those kinds of things. And maybe you just had it as a single bullet, but like maybe you need imagery that like really emphasizes it or whatever it is. So that's a really good way to figure out where you maybe need to focus for conversion on your listing. And that's great to use on website homepages or Amazon listing pages, anything like that, landing pages, that kind of stuff, because people will kind of read through and just kind of, okay, do I understand this? No, I'm still got questions about this, right?
Yeah, that's good. I love it. Awesome. Well, if I would encourage everybody to do some level of testing with PickFu. Justin, I appreciate you jumping on the podcast and teaching us some stuff. Like, I kind of got my ideas rolling around in my head. I'm like, how do I flowing? Exactly. I was like, oh man, there's a lot of low-hanging fruit, I think, in like the whole litany of client work and our own work that we could probably start to think through of like, how do we implement and test that more efficiently and effectively. So I think that's super great. So I would encourage anybody who listens to podcasts, go check out PickFu. There'll be a link in the description and in the show notes as well. And go take advantage of it.
Awesome. Thanks for having me.
Yeah. Thanks so much, Justin.